You know, are there lessons learned here about how to approach this, about how difficult it was made for the Trump administration when they came in, and that the attacks just never, ever ended on them? They kept coming and coming.
Well, there's a big difference between what Flynn did and what Biden is doing now, taking some congratulatory calls from foreign leaders. You know, President Trump took congratulatory calls after he won the election.
Of course, that's what I said at the very beginning. This is perfectly normal behavior.
Sure, but so the president of Egypt called President Trump the day after the election in 2016 to congratulate him. Nobody's claimed that that was wrong or that violated the Logan Act. What Flynn did was he took a call with the ambassador of Russia very late in the transition at the end of December, and he talked about a specific problem between the U.S. and Russia, which was Russia's interference in our election. He talked about sanctions, and he talked about a specific vote in the UN Security Council. That's closer to a Logan Act violation. I'm not saying it's a Logan Act violation. It was never adjudicated as such.
He was encouraging them not to escalate tension.
I'm sorry, David. The problem is Flynn then lied about it. And why did he lie about it? Because he was trying to hide the fact that he had this conversation in the first place.
So I want to talk about the bigger picture of foreign policy. Dave, you want to make a quick comment there, Marc?
Okay. Just simply that the Justice Department, the prosecutor for the Eastern District Eastern District of Missouri, looked into this, and he said the call was entirely appropriate because what Michael Flynn was doing was urging the Russians not to retaliate for sanctions, and so what he was doing was in the United States' interest, and there was absolutely nothing criminal about it. Now, if Michael Flynn made a mistake by not telling the truth about it, if he had just said to the FBI, "Yeah, I talked to the Russian ambassador. What about it? It's none of your business." That's what he should have done.
Exactly.
But why did he lie about it,
I do want to
Marc?
move on because I only got a couple of minutes left with you guys, and we have been over that territory quite a few times. Byron, what Secretary of State Pompeo had to say there about the transition to the second Trump administration, what's your reaction to him taking that stance?
Well, that's the crash of domestic politics and foreign policy. Clearly, foreign leaders are calling Joe Biden, and they're calling him the president-elect. You know, what kind of ties this to what we were just talking about is Ben Rhodes, who you played talking, said in December 2016 that we only have one president at a time, only one president at a time. But that's really not totally true when you have an outgoing president for a transition period and an incoming president. And it is only natural that foreign leaders are going to want to talk to the incoming administration to know what to expect. Some of them expect great things for their country from the United States under the new president. Some of them are worried about it. So that's the process that goes on. So when Secretary Pompeo said, "We're still counting the votes here," well, he's right. I mean, they're counting the votes they're receiving ballots in North Carolina until Thursday. Yep. Still, foreign leaders are going to do this, no doubt about it.
Marc and David, quick thought on the Middle East, because the Biden administration is talking about reaching out to Iran to reopen the Iran deal. And then you've got all of these peace deals that were historic that were made between Oman and Bahrain and the UAE and Israel to open relations. What's the impact on that?
So I think the Abraham Accords, which Trump was able to put in place, are going to actually create a stepping stone for Biden to then move forward with a peace deal potentially in the Middle East. So it's very helpful that Trump did that, and it is a significant accomplishment by Trump, and it's going to help Biden. I don't think Biden's going to jump right into negotiations with Iran. That's going to be far down the line. I don't think he's going to pull back sanctions on Iran immediately. He's going to use the sanctions as leverage to get a future deal with Iran that hopefully will be have bipartisan support.
Marc, final